What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Mike Pod, Sports Podcast Show. Your host Mike here with another podcast. Just reviewing the NBA playoffs going into the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. It's been a great NBA playoffs so far. I also want to touch on the Grizzlies uh, in the draft and just give a preview of the Eastern Conference Finals, which we already know what the matchups are, being the Spurs versus the Thunder and the Knicks versus the Cavs. Uh, this podcast is somewhat delayed. Fortunately, I guess Greg was unable to participate, but for good reasons. And we wish him well, wish his family well at this time, exciting times in his household. At this time, be sure to subscribe to my podcast, Mike Sports Podcast, uh, and also GR Production for exclusive content. Um, Starting off with the shout outs, want to shout out Fred Smith Jr. and Fred Smith Sr. um, Video circulating around uh, them driving around the city of Memphis, and they saw a man in need and gave him a pair of shoes, gave him something to eat. So, want to shout out them. Always want to center our shout outs around good things that are being done in the Memphis community, and they are an example of one of them. One of them. So, shout out to them. And also, congratulations to them, and not only them uh, in regards to their graduation. Want to celebrate our youth, celebrate our seniors, all those who are graduating and taking the next step in their careers during this happy time of the year, graduation senior season, and also the close of a new year, close of a school year as well for most youth in the city of Memphis. Prayers for safety during this time, because we know an idle mind is the devil's workshop. So, um, congratulations to all of our youth, all those who are graduating, and all those that are doing good in the community. So, back to the NBA. One of the things that we were all excited about was the NBA draft lottery. And so with third pick, the Memphis Grizzlies select is what we will all be anticipating in June. I believe it will be June 23rd when the actual NBA draft will commence. And by all looks of it, we should get one of the top four players. That being AJ Deboncia, Darren Peterson, Caleb Wilson, or Cam Boozer. And most likely it'll be either Caleb Wilson or Cam Boozer. And so since the announcement that we have the third pick, there's been a lot of talk, a lot of speculation, a lot of mock drafts, a lot of opinions on who Memphis should pick. And if I were pick, I really don't mind if it's Cam Boozer or Caleb Wilson. My swing big, obviously, is Caleb Wilson. I don't really look at it as who is if he can play right beside Zach Edey. I kind of look at it from pairing him side by side with Gigi, um, and that is a scary lineup to me. We know that Ja. is most likely to be traded. And while I'm at it, I bring up Ja and forgive my I missed I completely was not thinking about Brandon Clark. We want to give prayers and condolences to Brandon Clark and his family with his passing. It's been a roller coaster of emotions for Grizzlies fans, being on the high, getting the third pick, and then coming to just a complete low with just concern, sadness over the passing of Brandon Clark. Brandon Clark was a light in our community, and we send our prayers and condolences to his family during this time. Um, but we know how close he was to his teammates, how close he was to Jaren and Ja during their playing years, them pretty much starting their careers together, being drafted around the same time, same year. Um, and I wonder if his passing does the passing of Brandon Clark bring Ja closer to a resolution with the Grizzlies, or do things stay the same? And so I'm just curious and interested in how uh, going forward how this plays out. Um, does Brandon Clark's passing change Ja's mind as far as wanting to be a Grizzly or not? We don't know. Um, but assuming that Ja is no longer wants to be a Grizzly, I really do wish things would resolve themselves. But I've also accepted the fact that it's time to move on. Uh, we're looking at a potential starting lineup of Ty Jerome, Cedric Howard, G.G. Jackson, Caleb Wilson, and Zach Edey. And that starting lineup for the Grizzlies excites me. Uh, Now, if it's Cam Boozer next to Edey, I think that's a really good combination. But I think a really scary upside combination is pairing Gigi Jackson and Cedric Wilson together. Uh, so that's just my thoughts, in my opinion. I think that's the swing big option. Um, Peterson definitely is a possibility at three. Peterson desires to play point guard. Obviously, if we trade Ja, the point guard position could be up for grabs, could be his, um, since we'll have a need at point guard. And then there's just you know, Boozer, his dad, he works for the Utah Jazz and the Utah Jazz front office. So no one's really talking about that. Um, Carlos Boozer, Cam's dad, is a scout for the Utah Jazz. AJ Devonta is rumored, speculated that he wants to be traded or wants to be picked by the Utah Jazz, but at the same time wants to be the number one pick. So anything can happen. There are several trades that can happen. A lot of things can change from here to June, um, June 23rd. A lot of things can happen. So it's going to be interesting. Very, very, very interesting to see how all this plays out. The possibility of Peterson, DeBonsa, Boozer, and Wilson being in reach for the Memphis Grizzlies. It'll be a wise decision for Kleiman to stay put and not trade back. Um, if anything, trade up, and I think that's a definite possibility with the 16th pick. So we'll see what happens. I'm really excited about it, and let the speculation and the trade rumors begin. Going into the playoffs, we just had Philadelphia versus the Knicks, and I mean Philly is just too good to be outplayed and by the Knicks. And the Knicks, they came in hot. Um, they can be real streaky, but they're playing their best basketball right now. And we'll see how they do versus the Cavs. But against Philly, I mean Philly, you're just too good to lose the way that they lost. Um, and so you wonder about Joel Embiid's health, one, and his just future with the organization. Maury, he's fired, he's out. And he should have been out a long time ago. I kind of felt like when Joel Embiid signed that contract, uh, that the 76ers were going in the wrong direction anyway. And so they got Embiid and George on large contracts going into next year, and they are nowhere near NBA contender. Uh, they're nowhere near that contending team. So that they have a lot of questions to answer during the off season, but really disappointed in how Philadelphia played the Knicks. But shout out to the Knicks for doing what they were supposed to do, clicking on all cylinders. Cat asserting himself, and they're playing as a unit, playing together, and they got it done and got it done quickly. So shout out to them. The Wolves versus the Spurs. Tough game in the very game one. I mean, so much so that Perkins said Kendrick Perkins changed his pick from the Wolves winning it all to the Timberwolves winning the series. He changed his pick from the Spurs to the Timberwolves winning the series just after one game. Crazy. Uh, he definitely walked that back. The Spurs have won the series 4-2, but it was a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of disconnection within that team, within the Minnesota team. They're a really, really tough team defensively. And it was back and forth. I mean, they were physical, but where was Julius Randle? His body language, he just seemed disconnected. They lose DiVincenzo, so they were already down a shooter, ball handler, and they were just trying to piece things together. The Spurs, pretty much for the most part, they could have swept the Minnesota, but I think the Spurs really woke up during this series. They improved during the series. Of course, Wemby with the elbow to McDaniels, cost them. I believe it was game three. Um, but they handled the adversity and get get the win, advance. They embarrassed the Timberwolves at home, and of course during that game, another controversy. And Edwards leaves the bench with 8 minutes left, goes over to congratulate the Spurs during the timeout. Something we have never ever seen before. Something I've never seen before. Um, and I honestly, really, I don't have much of a problem with it. But it just goes to show that there is no, there seems to be no coach leadership in that locker room. 8 minutes to go, and it looks like you're waving a white flag. I mean, you're down 30. Of course, the chances of you winning doesn't look good, but still, there's still a lot of game left to be played. You're at home. I don't think it was the right time to go down there and, pretty much dab up the whole team. Could have did it at the end of the game, but I'm not offended, or nor do I think it was the right decision probably at that time to go down there. You still got your bench players, other players. They're going to be playing the rest of the game, and I mean, who's to say something happens? What if the fight breaks out on the court? I'm just, you know, there's so many things that can go left with 8 minutes left in the game. You to do that prematurely is just, I don't think it's a reflection of Ant's leadership, but just their mindset that they waved the white flag, um, not only in game six, but you can also tie it to game five when he got blown out. But the Spurs did what they were supposed to do, and Minnesota didn't respond. And just like at the end of this series, everyone is on the table pretty much, uh, trading block wise, and uh, along with the Rockets, the same has been said about them. And we'll go into off-season wild takes. I'll share mine. Um, but the the Timberwolves have a lot of questions to answer. Also in the off-season, as far as what they do. Um, Julius Randle is definitely in the hot seat. I don't know what's going on with him mentally. He was just not engaged at all during that last game. That team just pretty much gave up. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Obviously, Lakers and OKC, that was a sweep. Um, Cavs versus Detroit. I have to admit, the Cavs made a believer out of me. This series, I've been really tough on the Cavaliers, calling them soft. Uh, Jared Allen, Mobley, their combination really just, they just not playing well together. And of course, James Harden come out small in critical moments. But Donovan Mitchell has been the leader that he's supposed to be, and this is really Donovan's team. It always has been, but he's really showing um, how dynamic of a guard and how much growth he has uh, done and developed into just being a leader and taking a franchise that has been led by a legend in LeBron to now he being the head of the snake and a legend himself in the city of Cleveland. So they take care of Detroit, um, which Detroit, it was pretty much Kate Cunningham and nobody else. And there's obviously a regression in the Thompson kid Thompson and Amen Thompson. Both of them played well last year. They were difference makers last year. I had a video that I just went back and watched that I made in my videos. Which again, if you have not subscribed, go check it out. Go check out some of my videos where they highlight the fact that they were difference makers on their respective teams. And this year, both of them just their offense was just flat. Um, Still defensively good, but offensive wise, they just weren't. I wonder if it's a twin thing. I don't know, but they obviously need to work on their game going into next season. I believe both of them are up for big deals, and they have a lot of proving to do. Duran, Jalen Duran, he was just out of it the entire series. And it's obvious that they don't run a whole lot of plays for him, but he has a lot to work on. And you kind of wish that they they got him going early in the game with some looks, some post ups. His body language also was that of frustration. Could never really just get a hold of the ball. Some silly fouls. It was pretty much just the Cade Cunningham show, and he was doing everything. So Detroit, they look like they're in need of a point guard, and who's to say that John Morant could be their point guard of the future? There are a lot of teams in these playoffs that are missing that point guard, and we'll see so far with the final four teams that each one of those teams have a dynamic point guard, and the ones that have been eliminated because they don't have a dynamic point guard. Ja can be that guy. Ja can be that missing piece for those teams. So it'll be interesting this summer, at least the next couple of weeks, if a trade happens with one of those playoff teams or with a lottery team. But going forward, Detroit, they need a point guard. They need a point guard. They need somebody that can facilitate and make things happen for the team so that Cade is not doing it by himself. And while everyone was excited and looking forward to Detroit, New York, the Cavs and the Knicks is the series that we need to see. Everyone just was excited and had Detroit into the Eastern Conference Finals. The question was asked during the first take: Is the Cavs win? Is it a statement win? And I believe the consensus was that it wasn't a statement win, but I kind of disagree, and I think it was a statement win because Detroit, for all their for all of their missing pieces, they still had a great season. Um, they still had a great regular season playoffs. They just struggled, and that's what the playoffs does. It exposes your weaknesses because you're playing. It's a series, and that what makes the playoffs so hard. So it's going to be fun watching Jalen Brunson versus Donovan Mitchell. It's going to be interesting to see how Cat goes up versus Mosley and or Allen, and the coaching matchup between Atkins and Mike Brown. Uh, it's going to be a fun series. It begins tonight and game one. So The Knicks coming off of a long rest, Cavs coming off of course, their series, physical series with Detroit. So we'll see who takes game one, who comes out prepared for the moment. And I would say the Knicks, uh, I don't know, in six. I believe the Knicks could win it in six. Uh, but, it wouldn't surprise me now that Cleveland has made me a believer with their play. If Jared Allen and Mosley can play their level, and if Harden can not turn the ball over and score and get and facilitate, then I believe they have a chance. But I believe the key to the series is going to be James Harden because in actuality, I mean, versus Detroit, he had a horrible series. Defensively, he was a liability when he was pressured. He had trouble handling the ball, and as efficient as a scorer he is, he does come up small in big moments. And so Donovan Mitchell covered him, but with James Harden being a top 75 in the NBA type of player, a top guard, MVP candidate, MVP winner. With his basketball skills, you'd expect more um, from James Harden. And so, will he rise to the occasion? Him being now in the Eastern Conference Finals, will he show up and will he be consistent scoring? And will his defense improve? His defense was atrocious versus Detroit, and when he was pressured, he had problems. And so, I kind of expect either probably Bridges or Hart to start off guarding him. It'll be interesting just to see overall the general defensive matchups that they go with. Steve Kerr has decided. Oh, before we go on to Steve Kerr, let's talk about Game One last night. Last night, the Spurs versus OKC, classic, instant classic. Um, really should have started the show off with that matchup with that game. Classic, 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 instant. Wemby showed out. I mean, 41, 42 points, 24 rebounds. Uh, Surprisingly, only had 3 blocks, but he was a huge deterrent in the paint. Very good coaching matchup because the Spurs play zone, which they needed to do. I was a little nervous about Wemby versus Caruso in that matchup because he went off as well with over 30 points, and he was left wide open the majority of the time. And they did a good job on SGA. He wasn't able to dictate the game, control the game. Jalen Williams came back. He showed that he hasn't really missed a step. He's doing what he's supposed to do, doing his role. And it was just a classic. The highlights really don't do it justice. When Wemby hit that logo 3-pointer, I mean, I literally just fell out on the floor. My wife was looking at me like I was crazy. But that shot was so timely. It was awesome. It was an awesome shot, crazy shot, and time after time after time, Wimby, whether it was a block shot, a tip, lob, he was there. He embraced the moment, didn't shy away from the moment. Dylan Harper did a good job filling in for Fox, who, I was just surprised that he was out. I really thought that uh, they were at a disadvantage not having Fox on the court, but to be able to get this game, to get game one without Fox, uh, is a huge win for the Spurs in game one on the road. SGA wins the MVP. Which shout out to SGA for back to back MVP wins, and for Wemby to come out and respond like that. I mean, Wemby ended up being third, I believe, in MVP, and which is crazy, just to be third. But being in a conversation is accomplishment enough. Is an accomplishment enough. But we all know how motivated Wemby is, and how competitive he is. Him being a young player, it's refreshing to hear him talk basketball and wanting to be better, learning to be better. The Spurs is the absolute perfect organization for Wemby. And I mean, outside of the Grizzlies, the Spurs are a team that I'm rooting for. I'm a big basketball fan in general. Either if it's OKC advancing, cool. It's gonna be fun watching whoever they play on the East. But what Wemby is doing, what he's showing, is phenomenal. Um, and it's going to be, I mean, the Western Conference for the next however long. I mean, OKC in San Antonio, the title's going to go through them. It's and you got to find a way. If you're Minnesota, if you're Houston, if you're Memphis, if you're anybody in the Western Conference, you have to figure out how you're going to get through either of those teams. And I mean, on the game too. It's gonna be on Wednesday night. OKC. Maybe Fox is available. And I mean, if OKC doesn't win game two, they are in trouble. So be interesting to see how I believe they will respond. But Wembanyama, he is uh number one player in the world. Um, instant classic game one last night. Um, and I know it's going to be talked about all day today. Just his performance. Um, Steve Kerr, he has decided to come back on a 2-year deal with the Golden State Warriors, and not only that, but he'll be one of the highest paid coaches as well. I really thought that Steve Kerr was going to walk away, but his 2-year extension is only an extension of the inedible drop off that the Golden State Warriors are going to endure. Because, like I said, I mean, OKC and San Antonio aren't going anywhere. And not that any team should shy away from competition, but the the Golden State Warriors are in rebuild mode. At least they should be. So really interesting to see these 2 years and what does that mean? Is that signal anything in regards to LeBron and his decision? Do we see a LeBron Steph Curry uh teaming up? Who knows? Who really truly knows how that's gonna go, how that's gonna work? But Steve Kerr is gonna be back on a 2 year deal. Uh, what I was gonna discuss with me and Greg was just share our wild takes are for the teams that are in the playoffs that um, are no longer in the playoffs and what they should do next season, what they need to do. And so I know these these that my thoughts are they may be extreme, may or may not happen. Probably most likely not happen. But this is what I just think maybe will happen or should happen. Um, I think a trade between Portland Trailblazers and the Boston Celtics should be in the works. And judging by Jalen Brown, his comments regarding it being his favorite season after blowing the 3-1 lead in the playoffs, I think he could be on his way out uh, this offseason. And I'd suggest maybe a trade to Portland for Drew Holiday and reunite Drew Holiday, Tatum, White as Boston rebuilds. I expect Boston to be um, doing a lot of movement in the off season, trying to shore up their front court, and I think they offload Jalen Brown to make that possible. Uh, but that's just my thoughts. I think a trade um, to Portland. You talking about Portland with Jalen Brown and their rising young core. They could do a Portland could do a lot of damage with a trade involving with the trade if they trade them to Boston or make that trade. Lakers versus Lakers in Denver. I really think that with Joker in his contract coming up, that the Lakers are going to make a huge push to unite Luca and Joker. I really think that's a possibility. Uh, how that gets done, I don't know, but I think it's a possibility that Luca and Joker could team up, and that will be scary. LeBron, he's coming in as a free agent next year, and he pointed out in his exit interviews that he was the third option, and that seemed to be an adjustment and even a problem for him to be the third option. Uh, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. Uh, of course, you would have liked to see during the playoffs them be completely healthy, uh, especially versus OKC. You would like to see Luca in in that game, um, but injuries again have plagued the Lakers, and they just didn't get it done. So With LeBron being a free agent, I think the Knicks are definitely in the conversation. Can be in the conversation. Golden State can be in the conversation. A return to the Cavs could be in the conversation as he ends his career. We'll see how that goes. It's up to LeBron. Up to LeBron. Some think he could play maybe one or two more seasons, or he could retire. Uh, but it's really, I believe, what team is willing to make that commitment to LeBron uh, with what he wants to do and how he wants to play and what his role will be in whatever team, whether it be the Lakers or not. Will the Lakers make a move and bring him back, or are they going to say, "Thank you, LeBron, for all you've done for our organization, bringing us a championship, but we've decided to build this team completely around Luka." Going on to the Knicks, as I stated earlier, I think the Knicks they can make a move and bring in LeBron. I've really been saying the Knicks will be a good fit for LeBron for over a year now. I thought that move should have been made last year, um, just because of the numbers. They could swap LeBron for anybody really on the Lakers, on the Knicks starting five, and make it work. So the Knicks, I think they should make a run at LeBron. Grizzlies, Ja, I believe he ends up either with Sacramento, Milwaukee, or Brooklyn. As far as the trade goes, I guess we can add Detroit to that list. Any team that needs a point guard, we could probably add Minnesota to that list. And for all the criticisms that Kleiman has had as far as making a deal for Ja, I think we come to the conclusion that it was probably the best thing for the Grizzlies to do was to hold on to Ja during the trade deadline and really into the draft to make the best move or get a better offer for Ja. I don't think we'll get the conversation. The Grizzlies will get the conversation that they really want from uh, a Ja trade. And I mean, just yesterday, the other day, the poll right now that just went out was that 35% of the players, uh, Memphis was the one team that they don't want to be traded to, which I honestly have questions about just that poll in general. I think more questions need to be asked about that, but I'm perfectly fine with the poll. I don't like the negative narrative that comes with it. But I mean, honestly, if there's an NBA player that doesn't want to play here, we don't want him here anyway. I much rather prefer us bring in a vet that has a sincere desire to help the team, uplift the team, grow and develop the team with how young we are, than to bring in an NBA player that feels entitled and wants to do what he wants to do, regardless, on the team. We don't need any more Chandler Parsons. We don't need any Marcus Smarts. We don't need teams or players that pretend to want to be here and they just don't truly want to be here as a Grizzly. We see right through that. So, um, no, but I think John ends up either in Sacramento, Milwaukee, or Brooklyn, or any team that needs a point guard. I would much prefer picks for Ja than actual players. This is just my thoughts, my opinion. Los Angeles Clippers, what are they gonna do with Kawhi? Uh, we'll see. We'll see. It'd be interesting to see what Clippers do in the draft. They were the clear winners in the NBA draft with the Indiana Pacers falling out with the Zubac trade. But what do the Clippers do with Kawhi? Are they going to go rebuild, or are they going to just continue to build around Kawhi? They certainly don't have enough to win. They may not even be a playoff team next year. So the Clippers, they're going to be busy this offseason. I believe that Atlanta, Dallas, the Spurs, even, and Golden State are going to take a swing at Giannis. And Giannis already, there's some things about Giannis that have come out as far as his leadership with, uh, as well as Doc Rivers. Uh, I mean, being late for the plane and, being late for meetings. I mean, what's going on in Milwaukee? Um, it's been long said that Giannis wants to be in New York or wants to be a Knick, but uh, I think Atlanta, Dallas, the Spurs, Golden State could are going to make a run to try to get Boston. They're going to try to make a run on Giannis and try to add him. Orlando, they fired their coach, and their Mosley is uh, wasn't off the bench long. He is now with, I believe, it's New Orleans. But Orlando is looking for a coach, and I think they should give a serious look at Coach Tibbs, maybe even Coach Donovan, and basically running back with their organization. A lot of talk about Suggs being on the trading block and him underperforming. We'll see. Uh, I don't really see the Magic doing a whole lot. They did everything that they needed to do last offseason with getting Bane, and then they just didn't get it done. They were very disconnected during the regular season, underperformed during the regular season. Uh, ultimately being a playing team, but they were a dangerous one. They seemed to find something, but just wasn't enough to save Mosley's job. So I think hiring Coach Tibbs gets them back on track, and I think they should run it back. Golden State Warriors. Does Draymond get moved, and does Golden State rebuild and get younger? My biggest criticism with Golden State and Steve Kerr is that he does not develop his young players very well. They've had young guys, scores, young talent that Steve Kerr just seems to refuse to develop. They've had Kaminga. They've Golden State has had opportunity after opportunity to develop their young talent, insert them into rotation, give them consistent minutes. As Steve Kerr has been holding them back, and they haven't made the playoffs. And so, who gets moved? I mean, change has to happen. Does Draymond get moved? We know Steph ain't going nowhere. But is Draymond next? Should he be next? I mean, what's going to change? Are they going to start running plays for him in Golden State? Since he obviously made his feelings known about Steve Kerr, holding him back. Golden State, they have a lot of questions to answer during the off season, uh, and maybe they could start addressing them during the draft and free agency. Houston, the Houston Rockets, are they going to run it back, or are they going to like seriously make changes? They obviously miss Van Fleet. Maybe they run it back and they just got to stay healthy and build with that group. A lot of people are, making a big deal about Kevin Durant's burner account. You know, does that affect team chemistry? Whether it does or it doesn't, um, Houston is just a way better team than what they showed during the playoffs. And I know Kevin Durant, unfortunately, was injured during the first week, right going right into the playoffs. But they still should have, and they had definitely enough to beat the Lakers in the first round. Um, but do they run it back? Do they get it? Make trades and is Ja Morant a place uh for Houston? Is he the point guard they need? A playmaker for them? We'll see. The Philadelphia 76ers, what do you do with Embiid? What do you do with George? Are they going to be on the move? They got Masai Uri at SGM, which is a big move for Philly. But they have to address those two. They are just too good to not be a top contending team consistently in the East. Um, we'll see if either one of those players gets moved this year. I don't think it is sustainable for Embiid to miss so many games during the regular season, then come back close to the playoffs, and if he gets nicked up in the slightest, miss a couple of games in the playoffs due to injury, and then you're basically right back in on the beaches of Cancun after not advancing in the playoffs or getting swept in the playoffs. Um, 76ers got some difficult decisions ahead on what to do and with Embiid and Paul George. Uh, Utah Jazz. Does Ace Bailey gets traded so they can get AJ? I think it's definitely a possibility. I mean, Ace Bailey didn't want to be in Utah. We could tell that by his body language. He didn't even show up the first couple of days. Um, and we really didn't hear much about Ace Bailey throughout the season, really in Utah. So, it's definitely a possibility he could wind up in Washington. I don't know. Um, we'll see how that goes. What Utah does this offseason. I think really Utah, everybody is on the table in Utah. Marketing is on the table. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is on the table. Um, George, I think their point guard who's had a good year is probably the only player that has a solid spot in Utah, and everybody else is pretty much wide open. But the legend that Danny Ainge is as a GM, I'm sure he has a plan. I'm sure he has something up his sleeve. So be interesting to see what the Jazz do this offseason. Um, let's see. We talked about Julius Randle in Minnesota. We are seeing full circle the trade consequences, pros and cons of Carl Anthony Towns for Julius Randle right now. I don't believe at all that the Knicks will be where they would be without Carl Anthony Towns. And with that being said, with that trade being what it was, Julius Randle obviously did not adjust to that trade very well. Hasn't adjusted to that trade very well. Hasn't adjusted to trade rumors very well. And so, although transition is difficult as a professional athlete, you got to show up. The basketball court has to be your oasis, your way to focus and take it out on every team that you go up against. If you're Julius Randle, and he's shown nothing but disengagement. I don't know what's going on, but he's shown nothing but disengagement and disconnection with his teammates in Minnesota, and there's good potential for him to be traded and for Minnesota to move on from him. That's all the wild takes, naive takes that I have. Please comment on what you think these teams should do during the offseason, whoever your favorite team is, or what other teams should do during the offseason to improve their chances against a team like OKC and Wemby, because they are going to dominate for the next couple of years. If they keep their core together, they're going to dominate, especially the Spurs. I can see, OKC having to make a breakup with a couple of their guys. They're just too deep. They're just too deep of a team to be able to retain all those players on OKC. But um, comment, leave. If you agree, you think my ideas are legit. You know, your interaction, your opinion is definitely welcome. But that's all I have. Just my thoughts. I'm really excited about Game One, Knicks versus the Cavs tonight, and then Game Two with the Spurs versus the Thunder, and how the Thunder respond, how the Spurs will respond after a double overtime emotional win. Are they going to come out? Some teams they come out flat, no energy, and they end up getting blown out in Game Two because they've already accomplished getting a steal of a win in Game One. So we'll see if that momentum continues for the Spurs because their confidence is definitely high versus OKC. But again, that's all I got for right now. May come back again later this week with another podcast, hopefully with my co-host Greg. But until then, be well. Have a good, productive day. Be safe out there. Take care of yourselves. If take care of your mental, take care of your spiritual, take care of your physical, and help everyone has a nice, productive week, a nice, productive day. Until next time, Mike Sport Podcast Show. Again, subscribe for exclusive content.